Good morning, everyone. I feel kind of bad because I'm sort of hitchhiking on part of Jeff's scriptures here, some of the scriptures he's using in his sermons. But there's a lesson here in First John that I have talked to my youth group kids about a lot and have just tried to really pay attention to. So we live in a time where we are doubting ourselves a lot. We have a society that always tells us we're not good enough, we're not this, we're not that. Some of us have had personal situations that have made us feel as though we didn't live up to a standard that we either held for ourselves or we felt others held for us. And it seems to be a vicious spiral, a circle that has no end or way to solve. I work with so many teenagers who just are so self-deprecating, so unhappy with who they are. And that's where I've been a lot of times in my life. But in 1 John 3:18-20, I want to read this to you out of this version. My dear children, let's not just talk about love, let's practice real love. This is the only way we know we're living truly, living in God's reality. It's also the way to shut down debilitating self-criticism, even when there is something to it. I'm going to read that again. It's also the way to shut down debilitating self-criticism, even when there's something to it. For God is greater than our worried hearts and knows more about us than we do ourselves. And friends, once that's taken care of, we're no longer accusing or condemning ourselves. We're bold and free before God. We're able to stretch our hands out and receive what we asked for because we're doing what He said, doing what pleases Him. Again, this is God's command, to believe in His personally named Son, Jesus Christ. He told us to love each other in line with the original command. As we keep His commands, we live deeply and surely in Him, and He lives in us. And this is how we experience His deep and abiding presence in us, by the Spirit He gave us. I'm going to go back to James. And here we're told, you do well when you complete the royal rule of the Scriptures. Love others as you love yourself. But if you play up to these so-called important people, you go against the rule and stand convicted by it. You can't pick and choose in these things, specializing in keeping one or two things in God's law and ignoring others. The same God who said don't commit adultery also said don't murder. If you don't commit adultery but go ahead and murder, do you think your non-adultery will cancel out your murder? No, you're a murderer, period. Talk and act like a person expecting to be judged by the rule that sets us free. For if you refuse to act kindly, you can hardly expect to be treated kindly. Kind mercy wins over harsh judgment every time. And James goes on in here to talk about the inability to separate faith and works, that they are intertwined, and the only way you can have one is with the other. And so that goes back to me about the practicing real love. What does that look like? How do we practice real love? And in that practicing real love, it's a blessing to others, and it's a healing for us to get over our self-criticism. So think this week of some ways you can practice loving others. Maybe it's a card, a note, maybe it's $1 to someone who you might not think is going to use it wisely. I don't know. There are a lot of ways to practice love, and often the most important ones are the smallest ones. Think about your tone of voice when your husband or your child asks you a question that annoys you or catches you in the middle of something you're doing. Think about your feelings about having to clean up yet one more mess you didn't make, or take care of one more chore that you don't want to take care of. Think about your reactions to how you view the time God has given you. I'm rereading The Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom, and what an excellent example of realizing how whiny we are, how blessed we are, how full our lives are, how fortunate we are, and yet we still find things to complain about. I miss having parties, I miss being out, I don't like wearing a mask, no one else will wear a mask. just on and on. We have so many things we whine about instead of looking at the glory and the beauty around us and all the gifts we have from God. So go out and love this week. Love yourself. No more self-criticism or condemnation. Jesus died for that. Give it up. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.